Rain lashed against the glass facade of the Sterling estate, but the ice inside the ballroom was colder. Serena stood frozen as her adoptive father, Lord Richard, stepped up to the podium. For 20 years, she had given everything to this family, managing their accounts, polishing their reputation, and playing the dutiful daughter. Tonight was supposed to be her official coronation as heir. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard's voice echoed through the speaker system. Tonight, justice is served. 20 years ago, our biological daughter was stolen from us. After decades of searching, she has finally returned. Meet the true heiress of the Sterling name, Chloe. The grand doors parted, and a young woman in a brilliant crimson gown walked down the aisle. The crowd gasped in adoration. Serena turned toward her fiancé, Julian Crawford, expecting a reassuring hand. Instead, Julian stepped away from her, his eyes locked onto Chloe with predatory ambition. "Father, what does this mean for me?" Serena whispered, her chest tightening. Richard didn't even look at her. "It means you were a temporary placeholder, Serena. An orphan taken from a charity home out of pity. You hold no Sterling blood. Leave." Chloe stepped forward, a smirk dancing on her lips. "If you're truly leaving, Serena, hand over what belongs to the family." She gestured toward Serena's hand. Before Serena could speak, Julian grabbed her wrist. Without a shred of hesitation, he pulled the sapphire engagement ring, an heirloom passed down through generations, off her finger and placed it on Chloe's hand. "Julian?" Serena's voice cracked. "Wake up, Serena," Julian said coldly. "I marry bloodlines in power, not nameless orphans. A homeless girl with no background has no place in my future." Security guards grabbed Serena by the arms, dragging her past whispering nobles who laughed at her fall from grace. They threw her out the heavy oak doors, sending her tumbling down the stone steps into the dark, freezing downpour. Drenched, bruised, and stripped of everything she had ever known, Serena stared at the glowing estate. She pressed her hand to her chest, where a strange, burning sensation surged through her veins. Deep within the storm, an ancient howl resonated through the mountains, answering the flame awakening in her blood. She wouldn't just survive this night, she would make them burn. Serena stumbled through the blinding storm, her vision blurring as her body temperature spiked to a feverish heat. Every breath felt like inhaling liquid fire. She collapsed on the slick cobblestones outside the gates of the Obsidian Palace, a legendary, isolated fortress that high society spoke of only in hushed, terrified whispers. When her eyes flickered open, the smell of rain was gone, replaced by the scent of rich cedar and incense. She was lying on a velvet chaise inside a dimly lit penthouse suite. Heavy velvet curtains framed floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glowing city skyline. "You should not have survived that fever, little star." Serena flinched, turning toward the shadow in the corner. A man stepped into the ambient glow of the fireplace. He was impossibly striking, with silver black hair, sharp aristocratic features, and eyes as crimson as blood. This was Kalen, the sovereign lord of the night, an ancient immortal ruler feared by every noble clan in the realm. Serena tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness hit her. Kalen was beside her in a fraction of a second, his speed inhuman. As his hand brushed her neck to steady her, he suddenly froze. His red eyes flared with intense hunger and shock. "Your blood," Kalen murmured, his voice laced with a deep, echoing resonance. For 500 years, agonizing, inner madness had tormented Kalen every full moon. A soul-burning curse that drove him to the brink of insanity. But the moment he touched Serena, the roaring tempest inside his mind fell dead silent. A soothing coolness spread through his veins. "What are you?" he demanded, staring down at her. Serena looked directly into the eyes of the most dangerous being in the city. "I am someone who has lost everything. But if you give me the power to stand, I will give you whatever you need." Kalen's lips curled into a slow, dangerous smile. "A bargain, then. Stay by my side, act as my sworn consort, and let me draw upon your presence when the moon rises. In return, I will place the wealth, influence, and terror of the obsidian court at your feet. Together, we will tear your enemies to pieces. Serena reached out and took his cold hand. Deal. 3 days later, the Grand Imperial Hotel hosted the city's annual premier art and antiquities auction. The lobby buzzed with elite socialites, but the atmosphere shifted instantly when the Sterling family arrived, escorted by Julian Crawford. Julian beamed with pride. With the Sterling and Crawford families united, no one in this city can compete with us. Look over there, Chloe sneered, pointing toward the velvet ropes. Isn't that the beggar we threw into the rain? Serena walked in quietly, wearing a simple but elegant midnight blue silk gown. However, before Chloe could summon security, the auction house's general manager rushed past the Sterlings, bowing low to Serena. Lady Serena, your private VIP box on the top floor is prepared. His Grace, Lord Kalen, will join you shortly. Chloe's face contorted with jealousy. VIP box? She's a homeless outcast. She probably stole an invitation. Serena turned, her gaze cool and distant. Keep barking, Chloe. It's the only thing you're good at. Inside the grand hall, the auction began. The marquee item of the night was unveiled. The heart of the Sun Wolf, an ancient ruby amulet set in gilded silver, rumored to hold the essence of an ancient royal bloodline. Starting bid at $50 million. The auctioneer called out. Julian raised his paddle immediately. $60 million. He looked around smugly, enjoying the attention. This heirloom belongs on my fiancé's neck. From the dark upper balcony, a smooth, deep voice echoed across the quiet hall. $500 million. The room gasped. Julian spun around, his face turning pale. $500 million? Who is that? Kalen stepped into the light of the balcony, his arm resting lightly around Serena's waist. Julian, refusing to lose face in front of the high society, gritted his teeth and raised his paddle again. $510 million. $1 billion, Kalen stated calmly, without missing a beat. $1 billion. The auctioneer shouted, his voice trembling. Going once, twice. Sold to the sovereign lord. Julian collapsed into his chair, sweating profusely. He had tried to push the bidding, but Kalen's casual display of limitless wealth had completely crushed him. Down on the floor, Chloe glared up at Serena, her knuckles white with rage. The news of the billion-dollar auction purchase swept through high society like wildfire. Desperate to reclaim the spotlight and secure their declining financial standing, the Sterlings announced a massive press conference at the Royal Botanical Gardens. Chloe stood before dozens of flashing cameras, holding a forged parchment. Today, I announce to the realm that I am not just the Sterling heiress. I am the long-lost princess of the ancient Sun Wolf royalty, stolen 20 years ago. To celebrate, the Crawford and Sterling alliance will host a grand summit. In the back of the crowd, Serena watched quietly. Beside her, Kalen leaned down. She plays a dangerous game. The Sun Wolf clan does not tolerate imposters. Let her build her mountain of lies, Serena replied softly. The higher she climbs, the harder she will fall. Suddenly, Chloe spotted Serena in the crowd and pointed dramatically. Security, remove that jealous fraud. She keeps following my fiancé and trying to sabotage my royal debut. The crowd turned, whispering furiously as guards moved toward Serena. But before they could reach her, the air in the gardens grew unnaturally heavy. A powerful, commanding aura swept over the grounds, forcing several low-ranking nobles to their knees. Two majestic figures stepped out from a black luxury sedan, a man and woman wearing formal velvet robes embroidered with solar crests. It was King Oberon and Queen Soline, the absolute rulers of the Sun Wolf realm. Chloe's eyes lit up with greed. She rushed forward, bowing low. Your Majesties, I am Chloe, your lost daughter. I have prepared everything for our grand reunion. King Oberon looked down at Chloe with cold, piercing eyes. He didn't offer a hand. Instead, his voice boomed across the gardens like thunder. Who gave a street rat permission to wear the crest of the Sun Wolf clan? Chloe froze, the fake smile vanishing from her face. What? Your Majesty, I have the lineage papers. I am the princess. Queen Soline stepped forward, her expression filled with disgust. 20 years ago, a traitorous servant named Lilith stole our newborn child. You bear the exact scent and dark aura of that traitor, girl. You are no princess. You are the daughter of a criminal. Chaos erupted in the gardens as reporter cameras flashed frantically. Chloe panicked, backing away into Lord Richard's arms. Your Majesty, there must be a mistake. Richard pleaded, sweating through his collar. We raised her. She carries royal grace. Silence, King Oberon demanded. The laws of the Sun Wolf clan are absolute. If anyone dares claim royal blood, they must face the Bloodstone trial. If the stone glows golden, you are royalty. If it turns black, the stone releases a spiritual burn that destroys your power forever. Oberon signaled his Grand Elder, who carried forward a floating crystal orb swirling with violent solar energy. Oberon turned his fiery gaze toward Chloe. Step forward, girl, prove your claim, or be executed for treason against the crown. Chloe trembled violently. She knew her claim was a complete fabrication manufactured by Richard to elevate their family status. She looked at Julian for help, but Julian took 2 steps backward, distancing himself from her. I am feeling unwell. The pressure is too much, Chloe cried, attempting to faint into the grass. Guards, hold her hand to the stone, Queen Soline ordered coldly. 2 armored wolf guards seized Chloe's arm and forced her palm onto the crystal orb. The moment her skin touched the glass, the orb flashed a sickening, pitch-black color. A high-pitched screech echoed through the air as dark lightning surged into Chloe's body. Chloe shrieked in agony as the spiritual backlash burned through her veins, stripping away her cultivated energy and leaving her collapsing onto the dirt, weeping and gasping for air. A fraud, the Grand Elder announced. Throw her into the dungeons. Wait, Queen Soline whispered, her eyes suddenly locking onto the edge of the crowd. Her breath caught in her throat. That aura. The Queen pushed past the guards, walking directly toward Serena, who stood calmly in the shadow of Kaelin's presence. The entire crowd held its breath as the Queen of the Sun Wolves fell to her knees right before the abandoned orphan. Queen Soline reached out with trembling hands, touching Serena's cheek. The silver crescent mark behind your ear. The golden resonance in your pulse. It's you, my child, my Ella. King Oberon walked over, his stern face breaking into tears as he sensed the undeniable royal soul signature radiating from Serena. 20 years. We searched the entire continent for you, my daughter. The reporters went wild, their cameras flashing endlessly. The headlines were writing themselves live. The Sterlings threw away the real princess. Lord Richard and Julian stood frozen in total shock. Richard's hands shook uncontrollably. Serena is the Sun Wolf princess? The true ruler of the entire Eastern realm? Julian felt his world shatter. He had abandoned a literal royal sovereign to marry a lying fraud who was now heading to a dungeon. He rushed forward, his face desperate. Serena, my love, Julian called out, trying to push past the royal guards. I was tricked. Chloe lied to all of us. You know my heart has always belonged to you. Please, tell them we are still engaged. Serena didn't even turn her head. Kaelin stepped between Julian and Serena, his dark aura flaring outward like a physical wall. The sheer force of Kaelin's pressure slammed into Julian, forcing him onto his hands and knees in the dirt. Speak to her again, worm, Kaelin whispered, his voice dangerously low, and I will tear your soul from your body before your heart hits the floor. King Oberon wrapped his arm around Serena's shoulder, looking up at Kaelin with deep respect. Lord Kaelin, you have protected our daughter when we were not there. The Sun Wolf clan owes you an eternal debt. There is no debt, King Oberon, Kaelin replied smoothly, his crimson eyes fixing on Serena with a fierce, possessive warmth. She is my sworn mate. Protecting her is my only duty. Serena looked at the kneeling Julian and the ruined Chloe. Mother, father, Serena said clearly, do not execute Chloe yet. Let her watch the Centennial Gala tonight. I want her to see everything she tried to steal. In the hours leading up to the Centennial Gala, panic gripped the Sterling and Crawford households. News of the public disaster in the gardens had reached the financial markets. Inside the Crawford estate, Julian's father slammed his fist onto the marble desk. Are you insane, Julian? The banks have frozen our credit lines. Investors are pulling out of our tech firm. The Lord of the Night has blocked all our trade routes. Father, calm down, Julian yelled, pacing frantically. We still have the Centennial Gala tonight. The Sterlings invested millions into the venue. If we announce a merger tonight, the market will stabilize. With what money? His father roared. The Sterlings used their entire treasury to cover the auction fees you ran up. We are bankrupt, Julian. Unless the sovereign lord lifts his blockade, we are finished by midnight. Meanwhile, inside the grand dressing rooms of the Obsidian Palace, Serena stood before a floor-to-ceiling mirror. She wore a breathtaking gown of spun gold and midnight silk, adorned with the true royal jewels of the Sun Wolf dynasty. Kalen walked up behind her, placing a delicate diamond tiara upon her head. His cold hands lingered on her shoulders. You look like a queen who is ready to reclaim her kingdom, he murmured near her ear. Serena met his eyes in the mirror. Are the financial reports finalized? The Sterling's shares hit 0 10 minutes ago, Kalen confirmed with a soft smirk. Julian's father just signed over their remaining family estates to my liquidation firm to avoid debtor's prison. They have nothing left except the clothes on their backs. Serena turned around, resting her hand against Kalen's chest. For the first time, she felt the rhythmic, steady beat of his heart, a heart that had been cold for 5 centuries. Tonight, we end this, Serena said. Tonight, Kalen agreed, leaning down to kiss her hand. I will ensure the world kneels before you. The Grand Centennial Gala was the most lavish event of the decade, held in the city's Crystalline Palace. Despite their secret bankruptcy, the Sterling family and Julian showed up in rented suits and jewelry, desperate to put on a show of power for the attending nobles. Lord Richard took the stage, trying to project confidence despite his pale skin and bloodshot eyes. Welcome, honored guests, Richard announced into the microphone. Tonight, we celebrate a century of Sterling dominance. Though there have been misunderstandings today, our business alliances remain unshakable. Unshakable? A voice echoed from the back of the ballroom, cutting through the classical music. The grand doors swung open. Serena walked into the hall, flanked by King Oberon, Queen Soline, and an elite guard of royal wolves. Beside her stood Kalen, his dark presence casting an imposing shadow over the entire room. The guests instantly parted, bowing low as the royal entourage approached the stage. Lord Richard's voice trembled. Serena, my daughter, welcome home. We have kept the head table reserved for you. I am not your daughter, Richard, Serena said, her voice carrying effortlessly across the silent room. And you no longer own this hall. Kalen stepped forward, holding a scroll sealed with the sovereign crest. As of 8 o'clock tonight, the Obsidian Court has acquired all outstanding debts of the Sterling and Crawford families. Every asset, land title, and business license you possess has been seized to settle your fraud penalties. Murmurs erupted across the crowd. Nobles instantly pulled away from Julian and Richard as if they were contagious. No, you can't do this, Julian shouted, stepping forward in desperation. Serena, we grew up together. You loved me for years. You can't destroy my family over a mistake. Serena looked at Julian with pure pity. It wasn't a mistake, Julian. It was your nature. You threw me out when you thought I was worthless, and now you crawl back because I wear a crown. Julian fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face as security guards stepped up to strip him and Richard of their rented royal pins. In the corner of the room, Chloe was brought in under heavy guard, forced to watch her adoptive family's total humiliation in chains. Take them away, King Oberon commanded sternly. They will spend the rest of their days working in the northern crystal mines to repay their debts to the realm. As the guards dragged the screaming Sterlings and Crawfords out of the gala, The room burst into applause. The corrupt family that had bullied the lower houses for decades was finally gone. King Oberon stepped up to the main altar, raising his hands. Tonight, we crown our true daughter, Princess Serena, as the undisputed sovereign queen of the Sun Wolf dynasty. The Grand Elder brought forward the ancient crown of salt, a glowing artifact forged from pure solar light. Serena stepped onto the altar, kneeling gracefully before her people. However, as the elder placed the crown upon her head, a sudden, blinding flash of golden and dark crimson light erupted from Serena's body. The air pressure in the room spiked instantly, cracking the marble floor beneath the altar. Kalen froze, his eyes widening in complete shock. Memories, flooding in like a breaking dam, swirled inside Serena's mind. Ancient visions of a forgotten era 500 years ago flashed before her eyes. She saw a massive battlefield, a younger Kalen dying from a primordial curse, and a woman in golden armor who placed her hands on his chest, sealing his lethal curse inside her own soul before dying and reincarnating through the ages. Serena opened her eyes. They were no longer just golden. They burned with an ancient, immortal starlight. She looked directly at Kalen, her voice echoing with a double resonance that transcended mortal sound. "Kalen," she whispered softly. I remembered. The entire hall fell dead silent. Kalen took a slow step toward the altar, his hands shaking, something the immortal sovereign had never done in 5 centuries. "Ella," Kalen's voice cracked with raw emotion. "It wasn't a coincidence that my blood cured your madness, Kalen," Serena said, tears of golden light rolling down her cheeks as she stood up. 500 years ago, I was the Starlight Empress. I sealed your curse into my own soul to save your life, condemning myself to centuries of mortal reincarnation without my memories." Kalen dropped to one knee before her, overcome with emotion. "I searched for you, through 5 centuries of darkness, through every realm and lifespan. I never stopped looking for my Empress. And you found me." Serena smiled gently, reaching down to raise Kalen to his feet. "Even when I had no name, no home, and no power, you still chose to protect me." King Oberon and Queen Soline looked on with tears of joy, realizing that their daughter's fate was far greater than they had ever imagined. She was not just the Sun Wolf Queen. She was the reincarnated Starlight Empress of the ancient world. Serena turned toward the gathered nobility of all realms, holding Kalen's hand tightly. Her voice rang out with absolute authority. "From this night forward, the Sun Wolf dynasty and the Obsidian realm are united as one. There will be no more division, no more corruption, and no more tyranny in these lands." The crowd erupted into thunderous cheers, bowing deeply before the newly crowned queen and her sovereign king. Far away in the freezing northern mines, Julian and Chloe would spend their remaining days breaking stone, listening to the echoing bells of the distant capital celebrating the true queen's ascension. Serena looked up at Kalen, her heart full, as they stood together at the peak of the realm. Her journey of betrayal was over. Her reign of glory had just begun.